Mhm.
Chris, I am so thankful that you're here spending time with me today because did you just say you're in the middle of the World Cricket Championships?
So the I work with the England women's cricket team, and we're in the middle of the women's 50 over World Cup. Yeah. So
Oh my
out in India and Sri Lanka. Um,
wow.
so yeah, we're literally about midpoint, about halfway through.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, having fun?
It's great. It's great. You can't not have fun in India, I don't think. It's yeah, it does something to every sense, I think. So no, so it's been a good competition so far. Starting to get to the business end, I'm guessing. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see how we go. But no, really good group to work with. Super fortunate to have an opportunity to work with them, and yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Cricket is actually a sport that I am just starting to learn more about because we have a growing population of like South Asian Indian community
Yeah,
here. And so we didn't really have cricket here before. And now they're playing on the weekends in the parks, and it's so fun to watch because everybody comes out and it's just a
yeah.
hoot. So yeah,
Yeah,
very
it's a
cool.
pretty unique sport. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I say, I'd describe it as an individual team sport, which there's not too many of those around, right? So
Yeah.
a huge kind of individual component to it, but obviously in that team environment and that team setting. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I've worked for quite a while actually in cricket, like in and out. But yeah, it's a fascinating sport.
Yeah. Okay. And you've been in like performance psychology for over 20 years. Like you are one of the, in my opinion, and according to Jacko as well, one of the like OG and like best of. And so I'm so excited that like you're here to talk with me today about performance mindset and gearing it towards youth. Because as you mentioned actually in your form, I read it over, there is a gap. There's a gap between
Yeah,
youth coming up in sports and then getting to that like elite level, you're working with elite athletes and pros, and then all of a sudden this stuff comes in, and it would be so amazing if we could start implementing these tools younger. So,
I totally agree, Mario.
yeah,
I think. Um, just from a discipline perspective, again, like even in adult sport, professional sport, it's still and in a lot of areas, it's still a nice to have.
yes.
Um, and again, I think the more we can, and certainly what I'm trying to do is the more we can, I guess, normalize it, the more we
Yeah.
can just make it a resource that is available to adults and children and like within athletic populations and outside of those populations. I think the more we can just talk
Yeah.
about this, then the better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And so I'm going to do something very interesting that I've
Mm.
never done before on this
Okay.
podcast.
Mm.
You're like, oh
Nervous.
shit, what? I am going to ask you, like, in your opinion, what we should talk about today, as in, like, what is the most or one of the most important pieces that we can teach youth that will start bridging that gap? Like,
Yeah.
what's top of mind? What is the first thing that comes to your head?
Well, again, I mean, the main bit for me across all disciplines, I guess, is that if youth are in some kind of pathway or team environment, then they're going to be exposed to having access to different resource, right?
Mm,
Um, and dependent on what level they're at, it will be probably dependent on what they can access and what there is available. I
yeah,
I see like all of the different components, the multidisciplinary components, is just being a resource to allow them to fulfill their potential to be as best as they can be or to be as best as they want to be. And
mm,
so I think just my overarching message to that population would be just be really proactive in terms of like accessing what you can access,
hmm,
and just exploring what that looks like, as opposed to being dismissive of it or from the kind of get-go saying, no, that doesn't appeal to me, or that's not interested to me.
yeah,
Actually, just start with from that place of curiosity and say, okay, well, I could potentially get something from this person or persons that is going to have some impact on me. Unless I go explore that, unless I'm, like I say, if I go on the front foot with that, then I'm probably not going to know. Because
mm,
a lot of the space that they'll be exposed to it in group settings will be relatively kind of generic in terms
Yes.
that's just the nature of the beast, right? We're trying to get the message across to many.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so put me on the spot a little, but again, my immediate response my immediate response would be just have this proactive approach
Hmm.
to all different things. And again, I'm not kind of championing psychology particularly here. I'm across all disciplines.
Right.
If there's something from somebody that I think is going to be useful for me, then what might that be?
Yeah, I that is such an important piece, I think, especially for youth nowadays, like, because they have so much opportunity to get access to what they want because of their phones.
Yeah,
And right, and it's like back when we were younger, there was no way. We had to find some book somewhere that probably didn't even
yeah,
exist because it just right. And so now all of you youth who are listening to this, any of these topics, you have the opportunity to, I love the curious, right? Use that word,
yeah,
curious. Get curious about it. How is this going to help me? And not waiting for somebody to give it to you. Go search it
right.
out because that in itself, being somebody who is proactive, hey, is a whole attribute in itself that is really attractive to coaches, recruiters, life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, a couple of points are really, really good points, but a couple of things I pick up on there. So I think that, like I say, that proactivity probably aligns with some kind of optimistic mindset. And
Yes.
we know that as a characteristic in high performance, and that's an absolute must.
Mm.
So not to be kind of like blindly optimistic, but to be realistically optimistic.
What does that look
So
like?
well, again, I think it's just like adding those two components together. I think we can lead with optimism whilst not being real in our assumption as to what might happen. So we're
Okay.
thinking everything's going to be great. Yeah, and we omit those bits that okay, those pitfalls aren't going to happen to me. They probably are. Right.
Right.
So again, if I go in with a level of realism and just say, okay, I can still be very much forward focused in terms of striving towards what I want to get,
Hmm.
whilst being understanding as to what some of, like I say, some of those derails might be,
Yeah.
then again, it's a really important kind of personality characteristic to have. Some people will probably be a little bit more natural by disposition, and some will really have to work hard with it.
Yeah.
But again, just looking through that optimistic lens is going to be really important. So I think proactivity and optimism absolutely combine. If I could
Oh.
just rewind just a touch on the previous point, again, we're in a world now where we can access whatever we want to, which is
Hmm.
like unbelievable. And like I say, you and I would have probably like given for that back in the day.
Yeah.
But with that, on the flip side of that, I just also want to make the point that change doesn't necessarily happen just through consumption.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, there's so much information that we can take on board, right?
Mm.
But it's only information
Yeah.
unless we do something with it. So again,
Hmm.
I think that the luxury of having this abundance of resource available to us in this day is like unbelievable. Yet,
Hmm.
like I say, we can just get into that consumption trap where all we're doing is just taking on new things and not actually applying any of these or doing anything with it. And then we realize, well, why isn't anything different?
Hmm.
So absolutely take advantage of the moment we're in, but at the
Hmm.
same point, try and have some kind of filter to say, again, what is going to be really useful, and then how do I actually take action among some of the choices that I'm now being exposed to.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is such a key piece. And it's interesting that would be like just thinking that we could win a bodybuilding competition because we're reading how to exercise,
Right, right,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
And you might get a nugget from it, right? You might like you get, again, there's going to be some information that absolutely could assist you with it,
Yes. But
but just by just by reading it or listening to it or whatever isn't isn't going to convert to what that actually looks like. So I, I think the other bit is, and something that I'm very conscious of, and because again, like I can potentially come across a bit hypocritical here because obviously I put content out there, which again I want people to look at and read, but similarly I don't want to be a cause to them over consuming as well. So
right.
just being mindful of that. So I think again it's just not necessarily this notion of keeping adding things, right? And again, I
Mm.
think that's the danger that we get into as well. We're just adding more and more and more and more. And
Yeah.
like anything, I think if we add more things, then the absolute fundamentals of the or the crux of what we do probably gets lost then in all of that, or
Hmm.
gets diluted to a degree. So again, I'm almost kind of contrary to that in terms of what I would encourage people to do is take things away.
Mm.
Yeah, to almost minimize and have this reductionist approach to say, right, if like again, we kind of use this term, the big rocks, but what are my big rocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, and making sure that they are there and my focus is on like I think like the mastery of fundamentals in whatever your endeavor is
Hmm.
integral to success. And so it's not just about keeping adding. It's just like, right, these are my you know, this is what I base everything around. And
Hmm.
then potentially I can go explore this or tweak with that. But yeah, I guess just that. And again, I don't think balance is the right word, but I guess just that awareness and understanding as to how I can manage, like we say, like everything that is available to us in this day.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a couple pieces there too that is like it reminds me of the saying present not perfect, like just start. Like you don't have to wait till you have all the information because you'll never have all the information. Or you'll never there's always
But
new stuff coming out and there's always, and so
yeah,
if we're waiting for this perfect moment to start training or waiting for this perfect
yeah,
moment to whatever that looks like, then we're going to be waiting forever.
yeah,
Yeah, and then
great point. Yeah,
reps piece, right? You might try something like say you're listening to this podcast and we say a good framework or a tool to try and you go and try it once and it doesn't feel right or it doesn't work. Well, okay, it's because it needs reps. It's not just reading it once and trying it once so it's dedicating I would love your opinion, like dedicating a set amount of time to try a tool to see if
yeah,
it actually does make changes for you
yeah,
before you say, oh, it's not working, kind of a thing, too.
yeah. This again, love the point. I come from again, just to kind of revise what we said at the very beginning in the intro, I've been in psychology for just over 10 years, but I've worked in performance sport for 20 years, and the first 10 of that was as a strength conditioning coach.
Mm.
Um, so I've come from that discipline and now come into a slightly different discipline, albeit in the same environment most of the time. But my point being, kind of repeating what you've just said, a lot of how I then practice as a coach is how I would practice as a coach, right? So I take psychology almost like your your
Mm.
physiological program,
Yeah.
and like I said, the repetition and the reps piece of it is absolutely there. The kind of the exposure to that, so the building on that is absolutely important. We need to be able to build up a resistance to be able to test ourselves with it like you would physiologically.
Yeah.
And the other important consideration, I guess, if we're to use that kind of template or that methodology, is some period of restoration as well and some period of deload. So again, we can consume all of this, but if we're in this constant consumption flux, just as we would be like as in an overload phase, if we were like physiologically training, then we're going to limit our chances of adaptation if we're
Mm.
not letting ourselves just consolidate and recover and rest, right? And I think it's
Right.
exactly the same with with psychology. I think we need to test it. We need to challenge it and we need to incrementally do that. But at some point we just need to say, okay, well now's time just to let that sit and allow myself just to again just to process, to reflect whatever the deload equivalent would be.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's a really important consideration. Um, there was another point I was going to make, which is now slipped by. Um, it'll come back to me.
I've got a
But again,
question.
I
Maybe
think
it'll prompt
yeah,
it.
cool. Let's do it
Okay.
then. Yeah,
Is there a certain amount of time that it takes, like 3 months,
excellent.
90 days to
Yeah,
build a
yeah,
habit?
yeah,
Usually it's three
yeah,
months when you're on prescription medication to see if
yeah,
it works. Like what, so is like 3 months the sweet spot
yeah.
even for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's a great question because there's a lot out there again in more of the I probably would say more the kind of self-help domain, isn't there? Where like you say we can change habits within 21 days of doing this thing or 30 days of this before you get to that. And
Hmm.
again, I think that's useful. So similarly, I don't want to dismiss that altogether because I think it's useful in terms of there's absolutely like the importance of this consistent approach to it. Like I said,
Hmm.
this deliberate approach to it, this
Yeah.
focused approach to doing something and doing something and doing something and doing something. But again, I don't think there's any, and probably more from a theoretical perspective, I'm not sure there's a great deal of research that would back that up to say a
Okay.
certain period of time is going to evoke this response or change. Like generically, it's probably going to be
Right.
relatively personal,
Yeah.
but you need to give it time. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I think even just having an understanding is to say, I might, like I say, there might be something on here, or you might have seen something that, okay, well, this framework or this skill or this strategy, I'm going to adopt that. I'm going to try that and see what happens. I think we need to be measured then in terms of like was it effective or not effective. And so again,
Mhm.
what I would encourage is to say if you're going to do something, then at regular points, at regular intervals, not just as an exclusive one moment, but I think at regular periods in different contexts and different situations, is what I've done, is this change more effective than what I was doing before?
Mm.
Yeah, pretty simple question. Like,
Yeah.
has this evoked a different response for the better or for the positive? And if it has, then that's probably how behavioral change then becomes, right? It's just okay,
Yeah.
well, then I might adopt that a bit more frequently, or I might do something like that in the same or similar situation going forward.
Hmm.
Is it indifferent? Okay, is what I've done changed anything? In some situations it might have, in some situations it wouldn't have. So again, at least it's given me some tool for my
Yes.
toolbox to be able to use intermittently if I wish to, but also knowing that what I did previously was okay, right? Or
Yeah.
has it made no difference at all? Or has it had a negative effect? Which I think is again a really important question because that might just reinforce what I was doing was all right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which might make that even more robust and allow me to develop that even further. And so again, I don't think it's really complex kind of evaluation in terms of do you know like how successful was it or not? I think it just needs to simply be that. Was it
Hmm.
effective? Yes, no, or indifferent. And with that information, then what do I want to continue to do with it?
Mm. This is reminding me almost of like the scientific method that we learn when we're like in elementary school, I think, or whatever that is, right? And it's like you have a formula and you think you know what the outcome's going to be. And so you try doing it to see what the outcome is. And if, okay, well, it didn't work. So you change one thing and then you keep track of it and then you see and then
Right.
you change one more thing and you keep track of it. Life is like that. Sports is like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
youth, well, all of us, but youth, I think, struggle with failure and understanding that life and sport really is trial and error and like taking risks and figuring it out as you go. And then, but you have to like document it too. Like I'm terrible for keeping journals. I'm not gonna lie. Like there's like 10 books on the shelf that have maybe 3 pages in them. But I wish that I'd learned that when I was younger because it's so powerful to be able to look back and be like, oh, I tried this and this was how it worked. And okay, and
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about here is being able to try a method and keeping track, asking yourself questions, but don't keep the answers in your head.
Right.
Write them out so that you can actually go back. Because we might think we have good memories, but it,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
play out that way, you know?
Yeah. I think again, great points. I think what we're talking about here isn't the method necessarily. Like we say, some people can journal, some people
Yeah.
can't do that, whatever that looks like. And again, I think we get into the trap then of okay, well that doesn't work, so I'm not going to do the thing. But the
Hmm.
thing we're talking about essentially here is reflection, yeah,
Yes.
or reflective practice.
Yes.
So what we're talking about here is post an event, post a moment, are we actually taking the time to consider like what happened and how did it make me feel?
Mm.
Um, and from that information, that will then inform what might happen going forwards. And like I say, it might just be the conclusion is, well, nothing needs to happen, which
Right.
is a really important learning as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're not necessarily always looking for change. It might
Yeah.
just be reinforcement or acknowledgement as to say, okay, well, this is all right. This is okay.
Yeah.
So one thing psychology does really well as a discipline is through all of its training, like really encourages and champions this notion of reflective practice. So as
Mm.
practitioners, we take like scheduled time, we protect time
Hmm.
to look back and say, okay, well, what actually happened in that situation? And again, what emotions did that evoke? How did that make me feel? Was it good? Was it bad? What conclusions can I come to potentially take action going forwards? And this reflective cycle, as it's known, yeah, it continues in that way
Hmm.
to allow for continued development as practitioners. So, like as a framework, as a discipline, as a skill, if we can again employ some form of reflection at some
Hmm.
point regularly, and again, this is the nuance, right? Because again, I think people will say you need to journal every evening, right? Well, that's just one approach and
It's so hard.
one regularity, right? So
Yes.
again, if journaling and daily doesn't work for me,
Hmm.
then again, let me have some curiosity, like we spoke about before. Let me go and explore, well, what might be useful. Is a voice note every third day going to be better?
Hmm.
Right? And is that something that is lower lift for me, that doesn't demand something of me, and I can do relatively
Yeah.
conveniently and well, and know that I'm probably going to continue to do it, as opposed to, like I say, sourcing the journal, getting a nice pen, making sure I've got time in my day to be able to sit and do, and then classic human behavior. We do it for 2 or 3 days. We then, for whatever reason, don't do it and just be like, okay, actually that chain is now broken, so it's not going to be effective anymore.
Yeah.
So again, just the relationship, I think, against what is the source of the like what is my reason for doing this in the first place? And that to me is the fundamental bit. The way we do it is just the interesting bit. Yeah, but I think we get too hung up on the method as opposed to the reason why we're actually employing that method in the first place.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. It's like a load off my own back for
You don't
talking
need to journal. You
journal
don't
every
need to
night.
journal,
Oh,
Marianne.
good. Phew, oh my God.
We
Voice
need to
notes.
find
That's a
an
good one though. I
alternative.
can do voice notes.
Can I
No,
just make one more point? Sorry
yeah.
to carry on with this, but again, I want to try and get as much across as possible.
Yes.
Um, One really important consideration on this before we kind of stop talking about reflection. We often start, when we do reflect, we often start from a place of emotion.
Mm,
Okay. So
yeah.
when we reflect, starting from that place of emotion, then our reflection is going to be very much distorted to actually reflecting against the fact what actually happened.
Hmm.
Okay. So if there's one thing I can say about reflective practice, the first thing we start with, the first step is the facts. What has happened there? And then move on to, and how did that make me feel? Or how do I
Hmm.
feel about that? As opposed to, I think we often, just again, just from a human disposition perspective, we'd miss that first bit,
Hmm.
right? We wouldn't necessarily consider the objectiveness of it. We just go to be like, I'm feeling like that. I'm feeling again that instant made me feel angry, right? So I'm
Hmm.
going to reflect through my anger,
Hmm.
which, as we know, is going to give a very different.
Right.
If we're to follow that kind of framework and sequence, that's probably going to lead to some very different actions, as
Hmm.
opposed to this thing happened, and I think that made me feel angry. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then, so then that leads into like emotional regulation.
Right. Right.
And so,
The emotion is integral to it.
yeah.
But understanding the emotion based on what actually happened, as
Hmm.
opposed to starting from the place of emotion and almost omitting the thing that might have caused that emotion in the first place, isn't going to be isn't going to be that useful or as effective. It might be
Right.
quite good just to get it off our chest, right? But
Yeah.
again, what's the point of doing from it? If it's just to vent and just to clear some headspace, then okay. But that's not true reflection, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, so say, I'm a teenager and something has happened that I need to reflect upon, but I am in a heightened emotional state.
Right.
How do I regain control so that I can
Yeah.
actually reflect in that way?
Yeah. And again, so a couple of points. I think one bit would be go to the start, and again, what am I actually reflecting on?
Okay.
Yeah, so I might be in this heightened emotional state, but is that emotional state impairing my ability to actually be objective in my conclusions?
Okay.
Yeah, and if it is, because sometimes it will be, right? Our emotion is going to outweigh the ability for me to just to be logical and rational and say
Yeah.
this is what actually happened. No,
Yeah.
it didn't. No, it didn't. It didn't work out. No, it did. That's what those were the facts.
Hmm.
Yeah. So again, twofold. I think if the emotional state is impairing your ability to be able to start from that place of objectivity, I wouldn't even try and reflect in that moment, right?
Right.
Just sit with the emotion. And again,
Okay.
don't get rid of the emotion, don't suppress the emotion, just sit with the emotion. Just be like, okay, that's how I feel at the moment.
Mm,
And then when that moment passes, okay, now I can go back to it. Uh, Like this
okay.
is what happened, and that's why I felt like that in that time. Or, like I say, it might be that the emotion is there, but I've still got an ability just to be like, okay, actually,
Yeah.
what is the thing here? Like, what are we talking about here? And so,
Hmm.
dependent again on the individual. We see it a lot in team sport, and again, youth sport is exactly the same. Like post match or post game or post performance. So again, like
Yeah.
a lot of the time, we go straight into this review, and if I'm sure we'll talk about it, but if the result, the outcome, whatever that looks like, isn't what it wanted to be.
Hmm.
Yeah, and not just saying win or loss. That might be a
Yeah.
personal kind of outcome as well. Then again, often I'm forced into trying to explain that in that moment. Yeah. So we sit in the
Hmm.
locker room, like, what's happened? Okay. And we're trying to review something relatively objectively
Hmm.
through a very subjective lens. Like I say, my emotions are all over the shop, and you're telling me to answer you what happened. I was like, I've no idea.
Hmm.
And so I think again, we just need to be smart. We just need to be focused in terms of if we are going to do that, then fine, because that might be again in some environments that might be the only opportunity that we've got to do that as well, right?
Right.
And so if it is, then let's make sure that we're really concentrated on what it is that we're trying to get from that. And if we're trying to review performance objectively, then we need to ensure that we can try and get somebody or all people into a place of objectivity as opposed to just going through emotion.
Hmm. Yeah. There's so
Tough.
much gold in here. It's,
Mm.
it's so good.
One other
Um,
bit, sorry. Again, we're talking youth populations, right?
yes.
So again, we know that emotions aren't regulated at this age,
Right.
right? You're still
Yeah.
forming yourselves, you're still learning
Yeah.
your lived experiences. And so
Hmm.
again, like I say this kind of flippantly to make the point, and it's not this, but one week I might be feeling this, and the next week I might be feeling that. But there
Yeah.
is change that happens that frequently within that population, right? So
Yeah.
again, I think knowing that and understanding that and sitting okay with that to say, well, that's my reaction at this point, but that doesn't mean that that's who I am, or that doesn't define who I am, right? That just at the
Hmm.
moment that seems to be playing out. And
Hmm.
again, just being kind to yourself. Yeah, just allowing yourself to be like, okay, well, if that's how I feel, then that's how I feel. And that's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And it's adapting as I go. And at some point, it's probably going to kind of settle a little bit. But at no
Hmm.
point, and again, I think this is a really important myth to debust, that at no point is that fixed either, right? At no point does my personality define who I am.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big piece. And actually we speak a lot to the youth that come through the program about that, about how we are not our emotions. And it's interesting when I ask them, because like, we have this, it's called the bus method. And you've got the kid and they're driving their bus down the road, and then a challenge happens, a big rock falls in the road, right? And all of a sudden all these emotions jump on board the bus, and the driver, the athlete is now at the back of the bus, and all these emotions are trying to run the bus. And and I'm like, okay, well, we our emotions? Like, are you your emotions? And they're like, well, mixed results on that one. Some say
yeah,
yes, some
yeah,
say no. And then just saying, like we are emotional beings,
yeah,
but we're not our emotions. But how we speak about emotions is us tacking them on as identity, because we're saying, I am angry.
yeah, yeah,
I am anxious. I
yeah,
and it's like whatever comes after I am is true.
yeah,
And so instead of saying I am, how about we say I feel? Because then it's just a
yeah,
passenger on the bus,
yeah,
and you have the power to kick them off whenever you want and regain
yeah,
control.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. And again, totally endorse it. Yeah, the fixed to identity piece is critical here. Like I say,
Hmm.
if I keep reinforcing that message, then it becomes callous. Then it becomes, and again, that then becomes that limiting belief. Yeah, so
Hmm.
I am this thing. Um, it's a really important piece that I think it's really difficult. And again, I love the example that you've used because I think to explain it needs probably some kind of analogy or metaphor to understand it properly.
Hmm.
Um, and I think if we can get that concept and say that, I think the other bit is again, like often from a vocabulary perspective, we'll kind of shortcut or categorize. So I say I'm angry based on what I think anger might be in that moment. Yeah.
Right.
And again, if we were to explore that further, actually, I don't feel angry at all. But then all of a sudden, I'm just like I'm being labeled the angry one.
Mm.
Yeah. But it's not. It was just an easy. It's just a quick kind of fix to
Hmm.
say that I think that's what it is,
Yeah.
right? Um, my final piece on this, again, just while we're talking about this kind of role of emotions or things like that. Again, I think something else I would go back to your original question in terms of what I would try and encourage people to think, and certainly this population to think, like don't ever suppress those emotions,
Yes.
right? Please don't ever think that I shouldn't be feeling like this.
Mm.
Okay. So understanding what the emotion is, why I might be thinking like feeling like that, and what do I then want to do? Do I want to continue to feel like that, or do I want to do something around it?
Mm.
Is far better than I feel angry and I shouldn't feel angry.
Hmm.
So I need to do something about it.
Hmm.
So like, listen to the emotion, understand the emotion, right? Believe in that concept that the emotion doesn't identify who I am or doesn't define me, as you've
Hmm.
said, right? And
Yeah.
then what do I want to do about that? And at some point, it's really okay just to sit with it and just be like, that's what I want to do with it. But I know that if I continue to feel like this, it's probably not going to be conducive to what it is that I want to do, which again then gives me some choice to try and affect it or do something with it.
Hmm. And that's actually the first like two steps to regain control of the bus that we teach is like
Yeah,
being aware of it. So we always
yeah,
pull up these emotions wheels and like,
yeah,
okay, let's go
yeah,
deeper. Let's start
yeah,
figuring out all these different emotions and put them all on the bus. And then so be aware of it and then accept it. Is it bad
yeah,
that we're feeling like that? Well, no, like question mark.
yeah,
I'm like, no,
yeah,
it's not bad. It's actually
yeah,
good. They're signals.
yeah,
They're telling us things. It's so important.
yeah. Great
It's
point.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so I think this like is a really good segue into the power of words and the story that we tell ourselves.
yeah,
Because we have constant dialogue in our head. And I think it's so cool when I have these podcasts and speak to people like yourself and some of these Olympic athletes I've had on and all, because everybody has an inner voice. We all have self-talk going on and we all have self-doubt and all of these pieces that kind of come in. And so,
yeah,
youth, you're not the only ones that are in your head feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be here, I suck, or like whatever's going on in your head. You're not alone with
yeah.
that. But there is serious power in inner voice. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, great point. And again, so I think throughout life, like I say, you have you experience all different things, and the culmination of all those experiences will allow us to determine again what we do going forwards, right? So you could say the advantage of youth is that a lot of those experiences just by their very nature are the first time. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so again, they don't necessarily become as fixed
Yeah.
as some of us might feel that have gone through kind of repeated episodes of those things or what have you, right?
Hmm.
So so again, if we can start from that place of okay, just like you say, just first of all, just accepting it and understanding it,
Hmm.
and what do I want to do with it, then that's going to be great because again, like we're going to build up this portfolio of information that will determine what happens going forwards. I think like for again for the disadvantage then for older populations is that if we've not been aware of that or we've not done that, then again these things are a lot more difficult to shift, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So again, like yeah, youth are at an advantage in this place as long as they're doing something worthwhile with it. I think just going back to the original question, I think absolutely that. So any episode that we're in is probably going to create some narrative in terms of what that looks like. Okay, so a story is going to evolve.
Hmm.
Yeah, and often we're the author of that story. Okay, so we can determine like what story we want to write. The story will then determine the state that we put ourselves into post that episode. Okay. So if I'm telling again, if I'm saying again, I don't know what story I tell. I don't think I played that well on the weekend, right?
Mm.
And so all of a sudden now I'm building this story to say, well, if I didn't play well, then does that mean that like my teammates think I'm any good?
Hmm.
So all of a sudden I kind of start again
Spiral.
creatively writing these pages in my head about what this means. And before long, I've become so far removed away from, okay, well, maybe I just had a bad touch or dropped a ball or something like that. And all of a sudden now my conclusion to the story is I'm not worthy, right?
Mm.
Is going to determine then what state I'm in. So again, if I'm telling myself this thing, then the state I'm going to put myself in is like I say, the state of no self-worth and again, where do I belong and what does that mean and whatever. And again, that state is going to show up differently for everybody. The state that I'm in probably then, well, that will definitely then determine my strategy. Again, what am I going to do with that, right?
Mm.
So now all of a sudden I'm taking action based on this thing. Okay, so again, I might remove myself from the team. I might not be a part of that because I don't. This is the state that I'm in based on the story that I've told myself. Right? So again, a lot of what we do ties back to this inner narrative that I'm telling myself. Right?
Mhm.
The reason for me going through that sequence is then if I want to change the end part, if I want to change the thing that I'm doing, then I need to reverse engineer it. I need to affect my state. And to affect my state, I need to rewrite my story.
Mhm.
Yeah. So again, it all starts from that place. It all starts from this narrative to say, okay, well, if I'm going to tell myself these words, if I'm going to believe them, if I'm going to literally just, write them down and start to build on that, then I need to know what that's going to affect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I'm in a place now where, okay, well, I'm in a place where I don't want to be, then I need to rework. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I need to come back and again, like why was I in that state in the first place? And it probably comes down to the words that I was telling myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's so important. The story, that inner narrative is there, it's present, but it's
Mhm.
so important in terms of like what I do with that information, how I manage that information, how I understand and interpret that
Mhm.
information. And like I say, I'm the author. I'm my author, right?
Yeah.
So again, I've got the agency to be able to rewrite when I want to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
If
a
my
big
genre,
piece.
if my genre of writing is only one way, then it's only going to be there, right? So again, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big piece
Mm.
is knowing that you are the author of your own story. And sure, life can throw us things
Yeah.
as it does, and it will for the rest of your life, everybody, all you young ones. Like it
Yep.
doesn't get easier, you guys.
Sorry.
Sport is training ground for
Yeah.
life, okay?
Yeah.
And so knowing that when you don't get an outcome that you want, that is desired, you still get to write your own story because you get to decide how you react to it
Yeah.
and how you're going to respond and what you're going to tell yourself and what you do next, what actions you take. And so I know that sometimes in the moment it can feel good to be like, oh, that happened to me. But to actually
Yeah.
think, well, I know that sucked, but it happened for me.
Yeah.
What did I learn? What's the story? And then back to the beginning. How can we, reflect on this? And it's all so intertwined.
So intertwined. And this is what I love about this whole thing is like I say, there's a golden thread that runs through all of it. And even
Mhm.
just in our conversation, we probably talked about three or four different things. And
Yes.
straight away, there's this connection, right? Like I say, straight away, there's this thing in terms of me understanding myself, me giving, allowing myself to think about this thing,
Mhm.
to understand my emotion, not to throw them out because by understanding it is going to then affect again the story that I tell myself. And by the story that I tell myself is going to determine again what do I want to do with that based off of having some time to have reflected on what actually did what did
Yeah.
like it's so interlinked, yeah. um and I think that's great in some ways, and in other ways that makes it even more complex because it's just like the flow diagram in terms of well, what goes to what. It doesn't
Hmm.
need to be that, like you say, as long as you know that there's this commonality between all of these things and not taking each in isolation but knowing it's they're all going to impact each other to some point. And I think again I think like you should be excited about that just to see like by understanding this thing probably then impacts this other thing. And I genuinely believe like when we look at the other end of the spectrum and we're looking at kind of like world's best.
Hmm.
I'm not sure that they, how can I frame I don't know that they're doing this a lot of the time like intentionally.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? It's not that they've got like this mastered approach to say I've worked today. I just think they've done it more frequently and over time have just built this thing just to be like, okay, and forged those links and connected the dots a little bit more
yeah.
to then just to allow it to be able to play out differently. Like, aligned with it. Again, I mean, no, but this isn't just about that. There's a load of other variables in place, obviously.
Yeah.
But from a psychological perspective, I don't think anybody's got this mastered. I genuinely don't
Hmm.
believe that. Yeah. I think
Hmm.
everybody is still like constantly just trying to do this. And some people will be a lot more intentional in their approach. Okay.
Hmm.
So it'd be more probably by design. But there's plenty of people that are still doing it by default, but have just come up with this, like I say, this balance of different things that this just seem to then allow them to make some connection to the bigger piece.
Hmm. And I agree with you about the fact that, it's back to the reps piece even. You do these things, there's like foundational pieces that once you gain an understanding of, like how our minds and our bodies are interlinked and the self-talk and how important it is to reframe things so that you're being kind to yourself. And, once you kind of get that foundational piece and you do your reps, that just becomes a like second nature and a part of your
Yeah,
lifestyle and a part of just who you are is that you just
yeah,
understand that those things are linked. And then from that place, you're now just in a curious mindset all the time because you need
right.
that in order
Yeah,
to, right?
yeah,
And then it's
yeah,
like, oh, here's a new tool. I can try this on for size and use this.
yeah,
Oh, here's a new one, right? And so with youth, with all of you guys, this is the foundation. Once you understand this little domino effect of reflection and so once you have that, that is just setting you up a solid foundation to move forward and then like continue just leveling up. And the levels are endless, guys.
like unbelievably so. Well, I think they're infinite. Like I
Yeah.
say, I don't think you ever get to it. And again, that's not to say that we need to keep going on that journey, right? We need to keep leveling up. It might be that the level that I'm at is okay for me at the
Yeah.
moment. I think this is something else that we
Totally.
did just need to sit with.
Yeah.
Um, wow, you've triggered like loads in my mind, and I can only think of one thing at once. Um, let me think. Let's go back to where do I start with this? Well, I think on that last point that I just made, it's like every like if we can, you need it starts from awareness, right?
Hmm.
Everything starts from our awareness. So again, if we know that, then and if that's like I say, if that's my foundation, then where do I'm at? Like you could ask a group of people how well do you think you know yourself? Yeah, and again, you're going to get invariable response, but most people are probably going to say, yeah, I think I know myself pretty well. And then you could do something or expose them to something, just be like, okay, okay, oh, maybe I did, maybe I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Right? And then also we like over time, and again, this isn't just like youth to adult population. This is throughout life that
Hmm.
we'll just start to adopt these blind spots. So again, like I don't see that in myself, but if you were to ask anybody that knows me well, if they see it, then that'd be probably the first thing that they'd see, right? So again, we've just chosen to ignore that thing for whatever reason. So just to get this well-rounded kind of approach to awareness, I think is your absolute bedrock, is your starting point. And that
Hmm.
your point being in terms of the levels, then I don't think like anybody on this planet is fully self-aware because as long as you're still experiencing new and novel things, which we all are, right?
Yeah.
Maybe less so, but we all are, you don't know how you're going to respond or react to that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think the danger becomes, okay, well, I think I know myself to a level, so I don't need to explore that any further because I've got a pretty decent understanding of me. Like I say, I think like can continue pursuit of that is really encouraged.
Hmm.
And I need to try and beat the system. I need to beat the game. Yeah. The level that I'm at, like I want to keep going and keep going and keep going. And the trouble is then we cheat code it. So using that analogy, okay. I don't want to spend the hours to unlock the next level.
Mm.
Yeah. I want the quick fix or the hack to then be able to get to that next level. I'm only ever going to become the master of that game if I really understand the principles as to how I've unlocked level upon level upon level upon level, right? And at least that then aligns to some degree of mastery once I get to that point. But I think again, going back to our consumption conversation, the
Yes.
danger here is people are impatient, right? We don't want to put the reps in, like you say. We don't want to invest the time to understand to then be able to build on it. If I'm at level 3, I want to go to level 7. Yeah. But I
Mm.
don't necessarily want to invest my time or energy going through level 4, 5, 6 to get there. Just
Mhm.
tell me, tell me what the unlock is and I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be patient with this,
Yeah.
right? We can probably do some quick fixes for some short-term gain, but short-term gain again isn't going to allow for this consistent behavior. Short-term gain is going to be very empty by the time we
Mhm.
get there. And it's probably going to it's going to be meaningless as well, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
just understanding that it is a long game. It is a long game, and sitting with that and like where I'm at the moment is absolutely okay, right? If I want to
Mhm.
continue to go on that path, then make sure let's do it in the right way, as opposed to just trying to hack our way to it.
Mhm. Yeah, because we can read about all these things and consume the reels and like listen to the
Mhm.
podcasts and think that we know everything, but we don't actually know it until we put it into action and we have our own
Yeah,
experience with it. And then it's going to be
yeah,
a completely different thing. And you're definitely not the first person to mention the long term. Like it's a long game we're playing here, people. I I had Jelena on, and she's a Serbian boxer who has like multiple titles against multiple countries and weight class. The woman is insane. She's so cool. I was like bowing. But that was one of the big pieces that she wanted to leave behind for youth was that this is a it's a what is she? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's
yeah,
a marathon.
yeah,
And she's like, it's taken me 22 years since I started to now where I now hold like all these titles and I've
yeah,
like, my vision board is like getting checked off and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And so
yeah.
there is no quick fixes in the mental game, in the physical game. It is just, and that's hard because youth, we are now living in a world where our attention span is so much shorter.
Yeah.
And it's really, that is not necessarily even on you. It is just our society now where, everything is very quick. And so it takes a
Yeah.
lot of intention to be patient and play the slow game. And when you're making decisions today, make them for you tomorrow. Yeah,
I think I was going to say it's easy for us to say that and kind of
so hard.
champion this, right? But 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 again, like somebody telling me that when I was a youth,
Yeah.
I, I know what my response would have been. Again, okay, fine, but I want it now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that like again, I think this is like we've got to understand it. We've got to accept it. And like anything, I mean, I've got 2 children, and again, we have these conversations like
Yeah.
regularly about it. And it's just like, and again, you sound like the annoying dad would just be like, yeah, well, back in my day, or my experience of this, and like you can just see that they just like, yeah, right, whatever. Like I'm
Yeah.
running my race, and you're like, okay, cool. Again, and I totally want you to do that.
Yeah.
But these lessons or learnings are important as well. At some point, they probably do hit a mark. But I think just that if you want sustained or if you want sustained excellence, let's call it anything,
Yeah.
any endeavor. We're not just talking about sport here. We're talking about like everything in life. Then again, like just by doing it quick and like through shortcut methods, as I say,
Mhm.
I aren't going to allow for that. I think if I start from that place, and again, but the point is, again, I think it gives people then choice, right? So some people are still going to want the hacks. Some people are still going to do the quick fix. And if that's what they choose to do, then so be it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's not saying you've got to do it this way.
Yeah.
But I think if you want sustainability in anything that you do, then like you say, I'm not suddenly going to get strong overnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to develop my strength to then be able to to get to a place of strength. Yeah. As
Yeah.
opposed to trying to cheat it.
And that's like consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency. And it's almost I saw this I read this story the other day and it was about consistency and it was comparing it to like or like a line paralleling, that's the word, paralleling it with nature and about how, you know, you put a drip of water on a rock in the same place for years,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's going to be a hole in the
Oh, yeah.
rock.
Yeah.
And like, that is powerful. Like it's just a
Yeah.
drip of water.
Yeah. It's going to take a while, right?
It's going to take a while, but eventually there's going
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
a hole in
Yeah.
the rock. And it
Yeah.
like that is huge.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is huge. And so that's how, you know, that's a good way to even think about it too, with what we're doing here with the reps and the consistency and showing up for
Yeah.
yourself and all these pieces is that it might feel like a drip in a rock.
Yeah.
But if you hold
I
true
think,
to it,
yeah. I
yeah,
think again, just another tie, another connection here is then just how we, again, how we determine success, how we measure outcome, whatever that looks like.
yes,
Um, so again, I think we often just become quite fixated on the destination.
yeah,
Yeah. And like I said, that destination could be like within the thing this right in front of us in terms of right, my next match, my next performance, whatever that is, like what is it that I'm trying to do?
hmm,
And because we get so kind of immersed within that, I think we lose our sense of perspective at times in terms of like what the long term is. And often, like I say, especially in youth population, we might not even know what that looks like anyway. Like
yeah,
why should I? Why do I need to think too far ahead? Yeah, I'm fully in the moment. I'm living life.
yeah,
And again, I kind of applaud that. But at some point, I think as opposed to just getting to a point of outcome, whatever that looks like, then actually, have I had any consideration in terms of what the overall direction of travel might look like? Yeah. And it goes back to our point in terms of like that overarching kind of direction I'm trying to move in. I don't need to be fixed on that. In fact, the less fixed I am, the better. Yeah, it
mm,
doesn't have to have an endpoint, a tangible endpoint. That could be the most kind of aspirational thing in the world. And it might be that I never get there. But what
hmm,
it's allowing me are the conditions to at least travel along that that direction. I think we become too fixed in terms of like, well, when I do this, and again, let's use the sport
hmm,
analogy. It's a classic one. Like I guess in most sports, the top of the tree is like use Olympic sport as an example, right? So
yeah, yeah,
I win a gold medal.
yeah,
Okay. And a lot of people that'll be it. That'll be it. That'll be their endpoint.
mm,
That's pretty binary. I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it.
yeah,
Yeah. And very few people do it, by the way.
yeah,
Right. That's the kind of that's the realistic optimism piece of it. I can
right,
still absolutely shoot for the stars.
yeah,
But if I'm gonna get to that point, I'm gonna be one of few.
hmm,
Yeah. So so having that is fine, but don't just allow that to be the end point. That to me, that's just a part of the bigger picture. Yeah.
yes,
And that it might be hugely significant. And again, not by any stretch am I undermining the significance of that. But that's not it.
hmm,
Like what is even bigger? Like if I to come out of that, then what is even bigger than that? And so just to starting from this kind of direction piece to then say within that, then there are going to be multiple destinations that I'm going to strive for, that I'm going to some I'm going to hit and some I'm not.
hmm,
And if I to reverse back to that, then to even get me to that point, then I need to hit these milestones. Yeah. And then to get to that, like if I reverse back again, we're talking classic kind of process outcome
yeah,
type goal setting here.
yeah,
But to hit that milestone, like what's the first milestone that I need to hit? And then what systems do I need to incorporate? What processes do I need to do to at least give me the best chance to hit the first piece, right? And then
hmm,
again, we work back up the tree the other way. And so all of a sudden now I'm doing these things that allow me to hit this milestone. And then these multiple milestones allow me to hopefully get to this destination. And then the bit, like I said, to start with, then these multiple destinations are all part of this overall direction.
okay, there's a few pieces in there I want to talk about.
So
And
this is where I go with this, Mario. You get
no,
me
I
going, and
love
then
it.
I
Are
just
you kidding me? We're gonna be on here for hours. No, but the outcome piece that it's
yeah,
how I kind of explain it to my youth is like, okay, we go through goals and like you said, process goals, outcome goals, and all, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, those outcome goals, like they're so great, but they're just giving us a direction.
yeah,
And what we need to actually realize is those outcome goals, if you are so focused on them, they instead of being your lighthouse, they become your roof
yeah,
because all of a sudden that's the only thing that you've got no your eyes aren't open to all of the other opportunities that are happening along the way because you're so focused on this and now you've confined yourself and you've put yourself in a box,
yeah,
right? And they're like, oh really? Like so it's kind of like a little bit of a mind warp for them with that piece. And and then and then we talk about it's it's about the process goals, yes, but it's about who you're becoming on the way
right, right,
to that, right? It's like, okay, so you want to go to the Olympics. That's amazing. What a beautiful goal. Okay. So what let's break this down into all the million
yeah,
steps that it takes to get
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Okay. And say you get there, say you don't get there. Whatever. What are all of the things that being on this journey has brought into your life?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, being committed, living a healthy, active lifestyle, dedication, loyal, like all of these pieces. And it's like, okay, well, look who you have become. You have become the
yeah,
kind of person who like shows up for themselves, who is
yeah,
all of these things. You're not your sport. That's another big piece, right? I know when I quit
yeah,
sports, it was like a who am I situation,
yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
But it's like who you are all of the values that you have gained through your experience.
yeah,
The
yeah,
outcome is just a bow on top. If you get it,
yeah,
and if you don't get it, it's okay. Presents are still
yeah,
good without the
yeah.
bow.
For sure, a great point. I think, I think, it's such a difficult one to articulate at times because what we're not saying by any stretch here is that the outcome isn't important.
Right.
Yeah, I think sometimes we go too far the other way, right? Again, if we're just to use that relatively simple distinction of outcome and process,
Yeah.
we then be say like we shouldn't be outcome, we should be process. No, not at all. We should all have things that we're shooting for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the outcome is absolutely important. But
Hmm.
like you say, the importance that we put on that outcome without understanding the constituent parts to allow us to at least try and influence or expedite that outcome.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's not it then doesn't become all about the outcome,
Hmm.
which is the reason bit. Um, I think going back, what's even more difficult to articulate is the other piece that you mentioned in there, in terms of like the whole, again, what do we want to call it, but the whole purpose, the whole kind of fulfillment, like understanding who I'm becoming
Mm.
to this piece, right? And the reason that that's really important, really difficult to talk about is again, we're talking about emotion. Yeah.
Mm.
And we know that it's very difficult to talk like objectively about emotion. We've already said, right? We might use a label of anger, which like anger isn't the word, anger isn't the thing. That's just the word that I'm trying to use to explain this because we know that the brain isn't good at helping us to verbalize these things, right? So when we're starting from this emotional space, or when we're trying to talk about or articulate about emotion, we're not very good at doing it. Yeah.
Mm.
Like any conversation, think about it. When we met for the first time, we probably did have that conversation. What do you do? Right? Ask you
Mm.
what you do. You can wax lyrical about it. You can talk to me all day about what it is that you do. If I said, why do you do it? Okay. And often, if I ask you why you do it, you're probably going to respond with a what answer as well, right? I do it because of this. That's not why you're doing it. That's what you're doing it for. There's a
Mm.
distinction because we're not programmed to be able to explain the why.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're not programmed to be able to articulate our emotion in a way that we are able to articulate objectivity or fact or data. And so going back to youth population where again, that emotion is nowhere near regulated anyway. And then we're all of a sudden trying to like ask them questions about like why winning a excuse me, a gold medal is important.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's so difficult, it's so challenging. I don't, I'm not, I'm saying that genuinely, that
Yeah.
like it's difficult for anybody to do.
Yes.
And so I think again, understanding that is a really important consideration because a lot of people will think, well, I don't know why.
Hmm.
Because they've probably never thought why, and I don't know how to explain why, right?
Hmm.
And that's all right. That's okay.
Yes.
That's okay. So
That's where
let's
it
work out.
starts.
Yeah, exactly. So let's work out another way. And like you say, a lot of the things that a lot of the kind of techniques and the metaphors and exercises, I'm sure that you help them with is exactly for that reason. Is exactly for
Hmm.
them to try and explore that. But I think it was just important just to say it's not
Hmm.
easy just to switch to that and say, right, all of a sudden now I'm really understanding as to what fulfills me or what my purpose of doing this is.
Hmm.
Because I talk to many, many adult athletes
Hmm.
and they very rarely do that. One, because they've never considered it,
Hmm.
right? So how can I explain it if I've never even thought about it?
Yeah.
And two, like even if I do think about it, I don't know how to explain I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it takes time. It goes back to, okay, well, if there's something that I understand the significance of and understand the importance of, then it's
Hmm.
going to take time to get to a point where, okay, I've got some kind of scope on this. I kind of get this. And if
Hmm.
and I believe again, not I don't think everybody does believe this, but my belief of this is if I'm really understanding as to the why I'm doing it, then it's irrelevant if it's in some athletic endeavor or some other professional endeavor. I could lift you up out of your team member in that sport and put you into this
Yeah.
totally different environment, and that purpose would still be relevant,
Hmm.
albeit in different conditions in different environments.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I have a personal story about that actually.
Yeah.
I um I went to school, got my counseling degree and all that kind of stuff, and I knew that I wanted to help youth. I wanted to equip youth with tools to help them thrive in life and not struggle the way that I did.
Right.
And I went about it in a whole bunch of different ways. I was raising money for programs that work with at-risk youth. I was
Yeah.
working with at-risk youth in safe houses. I started a charity to help youth, like
Yeah.
all of these different things. And then it didn't matter. It didn't matter where I was put. The why and the
Right.
purpose was still the same
Yeah.
until I
Yeah.
came back home, really, to sports. And then it was just like, oh, this makes sense and it feels good and I feel like I'm at home and it's just
Yeah.
total cohesion and boom, doors open,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so it yeah, there's many, what is it? There's many paths to Rome, and it's true. When you know your why,
Yeah.
it's just figuring out, you know, what is going to work best for you for that why, for that
Yeah.
purpose. And it is true.
Uh,
Like you don't know that right away. It does take lots of reflection.
Some like with anything, some people won't even want to know that, right? And again, that's their prerogative. I don't want
Yeah.
to explore that. Like I'm just doing this because this is where I'm at. I don't need to go any deeper into this, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that the difficulty becomes, like I say, and you use the word why, and again, that's where that's almost the cliche it is now. Do we know our why? Do we know our purpose?
Yeah.
And because it's talked about like um so differently amongst different and again there's books on it and there's particular people that are really good about talking about this and that's become like really widespread and then the interpretation of that is probably distorted a little bit over a
Yeah.
lack of understanding as to all the complexity of it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it does become a bit of this cliche, do you know your why or do you like what's your purpose? Right.
Yeah.
And again, as much as that kind of explains it, it's like way more than this.
Oh
Way
yeah.
more
Top
than
of the
this.
iceberg. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And so again, I think that's where we need to be careful. Again, this kind of pop culture that we're in terms of just like trying to simplify something
Mm.
that is like super complex whilst wanting to try and simplify it to try and understand the complex. Yeah. And I think that's the kind of juxtaposition that I find myself in a little bit is
Mm.
that there's so much really useful, important stuff out there that it's super like with anything we're talking about, the human brain is going to be complex, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, so super complex, but we need to try and get this across to people so that they at least got some understanding of it
Hmm.
without dumbing it down, without simplifying it, without like paying it a disservice by saying, yeah, but it's just like really it's just this because it's not just that. But at some point you have to have an entry level, right? And so again, even if there's a way to be able to like say analogize or whatever, metaphorize, whatever the word is. I think I'm making words up. But you know what I mean? Just to try and at least get that point across to to some level so it kind of
Yeah.
initiates a spark
Yeah.
in the mind, then I think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's such an interesting thing to think about with look at our athletes right now, the top of the top athletes, right, that we have in the world right now. And how, performance mindset and really understanding how, sports psychology and how everything is linked and all that stuff. It's starting to, like we said at the beginning, it's starting to kind of come out and we're starting to kind of peel back the layers of it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And youth, if you are being proactive and you're being curious and you're diving into this right now at your age, when most of these athletes are adults and they are just learning it now, and look how good they are and look how far they went in their sports, just think about that for a second. Like you have a leg up
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you are hearing this right now and you do have these skills. And so it's cool. I'm so curious to see the next generation of athletes who actually takes hold of this stuff and
Yeah.
dives into it.
Yeah. So that's the same. And again, like I said, I think it's super exciting to think like what could be, and again, not just what could be in terms of records being broken or achievements being
Yeah,
quashed. I think just what could be in terms of human potential.
humans.
That yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. That's the point. It's more
Yeah.
about like what can people. I kind of started with a bit of a tagline when I came in here is that I think again I truly believe that people have got infinite potential,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is I don't think like that we're going to hit ceilings along the way,
Mhm.
and we're all going to be limited to a certain degree. I know that I'm never going to win a gold medal in the 100 meters, right? Like whatever I do, I'm never going to win that. Yeah. So again, I'm predisposed to that point,
Yeah.
but that's not my only that's not the only thing that I can achieve. Yeah.
Right.
And so again, where can I just keep smashing the ceiling? Um, and understanding that like, once I feel I've got to a level, then that doesn't limit me. That doesn't define who I am. I can then just reorientate. Again, going back to the thread, if I'm really understanding as to why I'm doing this thing and you know what I mean, and the purpose and the fulfillment around it, then it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what the endeavor is, right? I'm applying myself to it, and by applying myself to it and continually understanding myself better, to continually keep tweaking and tinkering these skills, strategies, methods, frameworks that I've adopted and understood and that I've used successfully. Like I say, I genuinely think like like potential is unlimited.
Hmm.
And that excites me. And again, it's not to the point that it's just like this constant hustle to try and get as far as I can, but to know that I've got that choice if I so wish, right?
Hmm.
And how far do I want to take it, whilst understanding that everybody else can take it as far as they want to as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we've got the power. We get to do with it what we want.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And this like hour has flown by, but I still really want to talk to you about anti-fragile, being anti-fragile, because
yeah,
you are one of the few people I know that actually like leans into that word even just alone, let alone like mindset and
yeah,
lifestyle of being anti-fragile. So let's talk
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, again, I think it's just again, it's a term, isn't it? I think people have got
Hmm.
like a different understanding or definition of it. I like if I'm probably to use a more appropriate psychological terminology, is something about resilience, I
Hmm.
think. Um, and again, I purposely use resilience and not resilient. Because again, I think like anti-fragility or resilience is this dynamic construct. It's not one thing or the other. It's just like
Yeah.
we're somewhere on that continuum. Okay.
Hmm.
So at times, like I say, like if I'm trying to um, like develop this ability to, I guess, just roll with the, roll with the punch, like take the ups and the downs, and to be able to do that, then I know that that's absolutely going to be compromised at times. It's going to be challenged hugely, right? But
Yeah.
again, if I'm able to first of all understand what it is, yeah, and then by understanding what it is, try and again employ and trying to adapt and trying to build on all of these things that hopefully just allow that to be more present and to be able to understand situations through that lens a little bit differently, then again, I think we can build up this robustness to that, right?
Mhm.
So I think if we're to use terms like anti-fragility or resilience or any of these things, it's not just an understanding as to what it is, but it's also an understanding as to what it is not.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm getting this like this balance here. So something like resilience is an example. I mean, one thing that is certainly not is something that we've mentioned already is this suppression of emotion, right?
Right.
If I need to develop resilience, then I can't. I need to really understand emotion.
Mhm.
I can't be in a place where like I can't be thinking like this or I can't be seen as being that. Okay. So again, that's what I mean by understanding what it is and what it isn't.
Mhm.
Um, and then once we know that, again, I think it's just trying to again be curious and explore ways to develop it whilst knowing that again I'm probably never going to master it because there's going to be things that come up that are going to compromise it, that are going to challenge it. But if my base level is there, yeah, then
Mhm.
I'm going to deal with that situation much more effectively and efficiently than if I've got no understanding as to what that looks like.
Mhm.
So life's difficult, right? We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's knowing that again, like in its simplest form, my description of any of those things would be if I can really understand what the foundations of it are and continually build on those foundations. Sound a bit like a broken record here because it's pretty much about
Well,
everything
it's
that we spoke
important.
about.
Yes.
It's absolutely important.
Yes.
Understand what the fundamental principles of it are and
Mhm.
continue to understand and develop and build on those principles, then
Mhm.
that's going to give me the best chance to be able to take on whatever life throws at me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't like I say we can go deep into it, but on surface level, I think that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think too that it isn't when we're all of this stuff that we are talking about today isn't a outcome, it's a lifestyle. It's a choice every day. It's a process. It's not like, oh, one day I'm gonna get there, kind of like we've been talking about. It's limitless. Uh,
Yeah.
But it just starts in the moment right now, choosing how you're gonna show up, choosing how you're
Yeah.
gonna accept and acknowledge and reflect and
Yeah.
like all those things. And then every day just making those choices and being gritty, having that true grit is like it's just a lifestyle. It's a way that you end up living when you become aware of this stuff.
I
It's not
think I
just
think understanding us, so like so the awareness that goes back to the awareness, right? It all
yeah.
starts from an awareness, but it's understanding me as a person
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
So a very understanding who I am, not who I would like to be or who I'm trying to be or who I'm comparing myself to in terms of a specific population, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think again that's where people get it wrong. They like you say the identity becomes too entrenched
Yeah.
on the thing that it is. So again, oh, I'm an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for sure you're an athlete, but you're also this and you're also that. You're also a brother. You're also a sister. You're also a friend. You're also
Yeah.
a son or a daughter or whatever that looks like. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas if we become too fixated on that, then okay, well, what happens then when I'm not there?
Yeah.
Does that mean that I don't exist? Right?
Yes.
And again, a lot of people will, right? A lot of people describe themselves as the ex, whatever. Like, yeah, oh, I'm the ex-athlete.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think it's just knowing that who you are first and foremost. And fine, if I then want to identify within this certain population, again, we're talking specifically I know around like these athletic populations. If I, you know, if that's where I'm at, then that's okay. And again, but like, what does that look like? But that's not who. That doesn't define me. That's not who I am.
Hmm.
Yeah, just happens to be that that's the environment that I'm operating in this moment,
Yeah.
right?
It's the chapter in the story that you're writing.
Totally.
Yeah.
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 And again, not to undermine that and not to dilute that
No,
at
it's
all, because I
important.
know that that is super, super important,
Yeah.
right? But that's not you. That's not who you are. And so
Hmm.
again, I think you're going to be able to build these other elements by starting from that place.
Hmm.
Yeah. And the lessons and the learnings that you get within that particular environment, again, are understanding, okay, well, how's that affecting me as a person and not just in this kind of specific construct that I'm finding myself in right now.
Hmm.
Um, and I think if we can do that, and again, there's so many other bits that come into it. We spoke briefly a little bit about failure, and again, I think just having an understanding, and again, as to what success and failure looks like and what it
Hmm.
is, um, and again, not being like totally defined by it and not being totally influenced by it, but understanding that's all part of it, right? Then it comes down again to the other bit that we talked about, the thread that goes through to being too kind of outcome centric. Yeah. Whilst understanding the importance of the outcome, but knowing again the things that allow me to try and get to that point to influence that. Um, all of these things kind of feed in. But I think going back to to understand any of this comes back to really understanding me, right? And that
Hmm.
self-investment into like, okay, well, what do I want to learn about myself now?
Hmm.
Yeah. Get to a point where I've not like, okay, well, that's now complete. Like constantly looking at ways to develop that self-awareness.
Hmm.
And if I understand myself, then I'm going to understand others better. So again, so my interactions and relationships are then going to be affected by it as well, right? So
Hmm.
I think, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing here around all of these is I can look at all of the different kind of principles or theories or frameworks in isolation, or I can do it through this place of constant kind of curiosity to develop in me, to understand in me,
Yeah.
and then start to employ and some of those things.
Phew. This has been so awesome. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you think that we should before we close today?
We've covered a great deal, and again,
Yes.
I'm I'm in danger of going another hour, so forgive me. But
Okay.
there's I guess just one thing. If I was to say one thing, right?
Yes.
Uh, a lot of what we're talking about, and again, might not be so apparent at the moment, but certainly will if certain, like these youth athletes continue in their pursuits.
Yeah.
There's something around this whole notion of performance, right? Um, And I think we just need to be really mindful in terms of the relationship between performance and well-being. Okay. And the reason I say that, I think that the further you go with that, then again, I've seen people become too fixated on one over the other. And
Mm.
so performance has been the focus to the compromise of overall well-being.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I'm to like so again, one thing that I probably am slightly different in terms of how I would explain this, I don't think the two are necessarily complementary to each other, right? So again, you hear some people trying to say, well, we need to find a sense of balance between the two. And I think if we're trying to find balance, then I don't think that allows for either to be where we want them to be. I think
Mm.
we then become relatively average or mediocre in both of those pursuits, right? So I
Mm.
think my kind of frame around this is to say, understanding, right, where if my focus is really on performance at the moment, right? Then I know that that's probably going to come at a cost to my well-being. Yeah.
Mm.
So think about it for a moment. Like if I'm well, if I'm to use my example right now, okay. So my performance at the moment is doing my role within this particular environment, right?
Mm.
So by doing that, and for me to be able to perform this, I know that I'm going to be working long days, right? I know that I'm going to be in a different country. I know that I'm going to be exposed to different types of risks. I'm away from my family. I'm all of these things, right? but I know that in order for me to perform well, then that's where I need to be,
Yeah.
whilst also being mindful of the fact that all those other things are really important to me. Yeah. So if I stay in this constant cycle of like, right, and then straight off the back of this, I'm going to go there, and then straight off the back of this, I'm going to dive into, that's not sustainable. Okay.
Hmm.
But I know that I'm in a period at the moment where, okay, well, I'm accepting that I'm probably going to have to make some other sacrifice. So in
Hmm.
order to do that, what I need to then do is shift the other way. So I need to be really like intentional in terms of like when this is done, then how do I allow myself to go back into that well-being space a bit, right? Knowing that my performance is then probably going to be hit a little bit.
Right.
Okay. And again, if I'm kind of going between these two cycles or seasons, then I can tolerate that, I can determine that, whilst still performing at my very best and still
Hmm.
ensuring my well-being when it needs to be is at its very best as well, right?
Hmm.
So again, I just again, I just really want to encourage people to say, I totally understand that when you see something and when you've got something and you're going for it and you're just so fixated on what that point is, then absolutely do that, but
Hmm.
not in this constant state. Okay, understanding when, okay, I need some restorative time after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to then be able to apply myself as best as I can the next time that I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. This was reminding me of yet another podcast recording. Tyler Rourke, he's a 22-year-old indoor track cyclist for Team Canada.
Yeah, great.
And I was talking to him about this basically in other terms. I was like, okay, you're training. Like he was telling me about his schedule, and it's just insane. It's insane. And I'm like, okay, so like, does it ever like suck to have to sacrifice like hanging out with your friends and your
Yeah,
family and
yeah,
like
yeah,
your well-being in that
yeah,
area?
yeah,
And I loved his answer. He's such a calm, cool, collected guy.
yeah,
And he said, you know what? I show up to my training 100% focused and on so that when an opportunity comes and it's time, I can turn that part of my brain off and be 100% intentional and present in
yeah,
the moment when I'm
yeah,
on in my well-being side.
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, whew, that's good.
If
That's good.
you can get to that place and like you say, he's got something, yeah, he's got something right there. I think it's super important, super important. And like I say, if you want to continue to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, then
Hmm.
I think grinding that at an early age and
Yeah.
and understanding that principle and starting to work with that, I
Yeah.
think is going to allow you to be the very best version of you that you can be. Yeah,
100%. 100%. Amazing. Okay. This was so good. Chris, I want to thank you again, like for taking time. You're in this crazy busy time and hours in the air and all that kind of stuff. And you took time to be with me today and be on this podcast and share your knowledge. So just thank you. Thank you for that.
no problem. Appreciate you, Marianne, and again, appreciate everything that you're doing. Like I say, if we can start to try and get this information across to as many people as possible, which I know that like is you're super passionate about as well, then
Yeah.
then great. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing as well. Super great to be on. Thank you.
Yeah. And until next time, everybody, train your mind, build your grit, and forge your legacy.